Welcome to another Small Cap Power discussion. I'm your host, Jim Gordon. We're on location at the Fairmont Pacific Rim Hotel in Vancouver in cooperation with Vancouver Resource Investment Conference, just across the street behind us at the Vancouver Convention Center. Joining me is the President and CEO of Nicola Mining. It's Peter Espig. Thank you for joining us, Peter.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
You're quite welcome, sir. Lots to talk about. Let's first talk about you and how you came to Nicola, and then we'll talk about the company.
Yeah, so I became the CEO of Nicola Mining in 2013, and it was at that time, quite serendipitous in that when the opportunity came up, I felt like it was a full circle of my life, because when I was young, I had worked as a diamond driller, and so I spent from the age of 16 up until I graduated from university. I worked in the drilling rigs all through northern Canada, Yukon, Northwest Territories. And so when the opportunity came to take over a mining company, I thought, wow, it's like a full circle of my life. Yeah.
You're a Merritt-based mining company, as you mentioned. You've got a number of projects, properties. Let's talk about the company first, and then we'll get into some of these, some great news that you've had.
The company has really four key assets. Now, the key, and I come from an investment banking background, so people talk about synergies very loosely, but I think in order to really extract synergies from your assets, they need to have something in common. So what we have in common is jurisdiction. All our assets are in British Columbia. We have the Merritt Mill, the new Craigmont copper project, Treasure Mountain silver mine. We've made an investment into a project called Dominion Creek, which is a gold project, and which we have a 75% economic interest.
Let's talk about these facilities, these projects. I want to start with the Merritt Mill, because it was attached to some very good news in terms of helping out with rebuilding infrastructure in the Merritt area.
The mill itself is the only mill in British Columbia permitted to receive material from anywhere in the province. Okay. We own approximately 900 acres freehold. So we actually own the land. We purchased the land in 2012, went on and put a modern flotation mill. We invested approximately $30 million in the mill, the line tailings facility. I cannot emphasize how important it is to be fully permitted, because as we know in British Columbia, it's not about the capital necessarily, it's about the barrier of entry is really the permitting. Right. And so we have that, and there's a lot of value in aside from our CapEx investment, in holding those permits. And so those permits allow you to do a lot of things. So a lot of the smaller gold projects, they'll never be justified to do their environmental impact studies, the economic feasibility studies. The cost of those studies is very, very high. So if you have a high-grade small project, you're kind of stuck. And so the way to conceptualize the mill is that it's like an airport. And there's a lot of gold projects in British Columbia, and they're the airplane. And really the only destination that makes sense is to ship it to us if you're in British Columbia. And it allows us, because we own the land, to create several revenue streams that go beyond just milling and making concentrate. So, and we've been very creative. I think one of the things that our company really prides itself on is our level of intelligence when it comes to being creative on how to create revenue streams, because ultimately, if you don't have revenue, in the future you're going to have dilution.
Peter, I want to talk about some of your other properties, including New Craigmont. You brought some samples here. See the front four there. What are we looking at there, and tell us about New Craigmont?
Sure. So this is drill core from New Craigmont project, and as you can see, there's a lot of chalcopyrite in the core, and it really is our main asset. And we have the rights 100% of the historic Craigmont mine, which is now our new project, and that's approximately 11,000 hectares. Historically, it's the highest grade copper mine in history in North America. So there was approximately 34 million tons of material grading 1.3% copper, which is very, very high grade. When I look at projects as an investor as well, is that, I try and understand why does that project, or why does the mineralization still exist? Because often you hear it goes from one party to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And I'm always I guess, skeptical as to why does the last party know so much more than the previous parties. Well, this was very unique in that from 1952 to 1982, you basically had an operating mine. And the mine closed not because they ran out of copper. In fact, there was mineralized zones that were still that are still left in situ, but it closed because copper price was at the time 60 cents. And as we know, copper price is much higher now. And the cost of mining, because of technology, really hasn't increased in the same rate. After the mine closed, it went from 1993 to 2014, there was a magnetite operation where they went through the historic waste piles of the tailings. So it wasn't until 2015 when Nicola took control of 100% of the ownership. They actually had one owner.
Right.
So we're really, since the 50s and 60s, really the first owner that is interested in actually exploring the property, because nobody had control of the asset. So we're really excited about this. And it made it difficult because now, as we're doing the ZTEM survey and with various IP and electromagnetic surveys that we're doing, there's an overburden that makes it difficult where you have less outcroppings.
Right.
So we're using modern technology with historic diamond drilling, and these holes were drilled by us. And we've had several holes. We've had 3 holes of greater than 70 meters of higher than 1%. So the grades are there. And we're also excited because the historic copper mine is a skarn related. So it's a magnetite hematite skarn with copper that contains copper. But we've always had the belief that there's a porphyry associated with that mineralization. And in 2019, in our exploration, we were able to find mineralization that had both skarn and porphyry type of mineralization. So we're going to continue to explore that property, but we really believe that's where the long-term true value is. In our historic waste piles, we have a 43101 resource. And that resource that we made, we put it together, I think, in 2020, based at the time when copper was $2.80. Right. So now so again, that resource, the value of even the waste piles, I believe has increased since 2020.
You brought another sample here from Treasure Mountain Silver Mine. I lifted it up and nearly dislocated my shoulder.
Yes.
Tell us about this property.
Yeah, so the Treasure Mountain, and again,
I'll bring this one here, by the way.
Yeah, this is quite heavy, and it's deceiving. It's like picking up a piece of stainless steel.
Yeah, yeah.
If you go back to 2012 and 2013, there was a time when Nicola Mining had a market cap of over $200 million, and it was specifically based on not the copper, because we didn't have the copper asset, but it was based on the upside of the silver and the mill.
Right.
So investors need to understand that Treasure Mountain is more than an exploration property. It's actually a fully permitted mine. It has mine permits in place. And there's a lot of value in having those mine permits. And although there is, what really excites us about the property, so we have level 1 stope 2, which this is from level 1 stope 2. Right. And so it's a narrow vein, very, very high grade, 50 to 200 ounces gold per ton right in the center of the vein of silver. Mm-hmm. But what's really exciting is the backside, the northern side of the mountain, which is the MB zone. And the MB zone, we've had soil sampling where we've sampled soil. And remember, this is soil, where at surface we've had 3,000 grams silver, more, in the percentage of copper and gold at surface. So that's something that we look at Treasure Mountain as an asset that we really don't know a lot about, but it's very exciting. We look forward to exploring the backside and really understanding what's driving the mineralization, because the mineralization on the backside of the mountain is approximately 1.5 kilometers away from the current, where the stopes are of the mine, the levels.
Let's talk your last project, property, Dominion Creek property. Give us a brief update on that.
The Dominion Creek really epitomizes what is the strength of Nicola. And I had mentioned earlier that we're kind of like an airport, and small projects are like airplanes. And this is a project that is a very high-grade gold project at surface, but the known resource is small. So it doesn't justify going out and putting together a mine plan. It doesn't justify putting a mill there. That would probably render it non-economic.
Okay.
But if you look at, so in 2020, we did 23 samples, grab samples, representative grab samples, and the average grade came back at 61 grams per ton gold. This is at surface.
Right.
This was followed by larger samples where we did a 9.7 kilogram sample across the vein and another 26 kilogram sample from previous exploration. And that came back at an average of 62 and 58 grams per ton at surface.
Sure.
So, and then when we did chip samples across the vein, we had approximately 34 grams per ton. So what we have there is we have something that, again, can feed the mill, because really the way we look at mining is that it's a cash flow opportunity based on resources, precious metals or base. And so you know, we're indifferent whether it's gold or silver. The main thing is that we've got a mill that can create a concentrate from that mill feed and create cash flow. And that cash flow, again, can be further utilized to acquisitions, to exploration. And so this is an example of where we went out and we spoke with we first entered into a milling partnership agreement. We made a small investment, and we now have a 75% economic interest in the project.
One of the things that really struck me, and you referenced it several times, is this environmental responsibility to
Sure.
the area. In your case, Kamloops, Merritt, Lower Nicola. Again, it's something that perhaps was not focus not needed 30, 40 years ago, but it's great when you stand up and say that on the front page of your website. Talk a bit about what that commitment is and the responsibility you feel.
So environmental sustainability and governance it should have always been important, but I think it's become more front page, as you say, rather than in the back. We've created an ESG team. The reason why that's important is because as a mining company, you also have you have obligations, and that is the environment and sustainability. In having an ESG team, what it does is it allows you to balance. And look, you know, mining often gets a bad rap, but you can't drive a car, you can't have a cell phone there. I mean, you can't wear clothing, you can't have anything that we consider a luxury or even a requirement in modern society without mining.
Right.
So the key point here is to balance the ESG and the requirement of having these important precious metals and base metals.
Talking with Peter Espig, the President and CEO of Nicola Mining. More information, by the way, it's nicolamining.com. One of the things that we've been discussing with people, and I've certainly brought this up every time I've done an interview in the last couple of years, is the challenges that companies face, every company basically in any business. Has it been less stressful for you guys, seeing as that you're provincially based? I mean, I've talked to a number of people that say they have projects and properties in South America, wherever, where for 2 years you're not leaving the country. Has that helped you guys somewhat in terms of the last 2 years?
That's a good question. I would say no. I would say that being in the mining industry has been a lot more stressful, and the hurdles are probably higher than in most industries, regardless of whether you're cross-border or within British Columbia. Now, the thing that I would say is that in British Columbia, it's easy to understand what the hurdles are.
Right.
So,
okay.
You know, you have a stable geopolitical environment.
Right.
So really, what we need to do is we need to understand, okay, what is to make our business or our mining business as stable as possible, we need to first, and this goes back to the ESG, where, you know, First Nation consulting,
Right.
partnerships, environmental obligations. We know what those hurdles are. Now, those hurdles are getting higher,
Yeah.
but we
you know
can
they
control,
are.
we
Yeah.
know what they are. Whereas when you go to other jurisdictions, it changes with the political environment. So we're pretty lucky or blessed to be able to have all our assets under the, I would say, the same requirements.
Okay. Let's talk about the rest of this year. We're in almost a mid-year right now, 2022. Let's talk about what you're looking forward to the rest of this year and into 2023.
This year we've actually accomplished a lot already. So, we recently signed a large agreement with LNSS, which is an affiliate of the Lower Nicola Indian Band and Infracon. And so that highlights what our ESG initiatives, it highlights our relationships with First Nations. Yeah. It allows for a lot. And what it has also allowed is it allowed us to get our rock quarry permit, which has recently been in the news. As a company that is looking for cash flow opportunities, what greater way than to have a cash flow opportunity to also help rebuild the infrastructure that was destroyed with the floods of November of last year. So I'll go back to 2021, where in 2021 the mill restarted processing gold and silver material, where we created concentrate. In 2022, up until February, we were selling our concentrate. From there, we then started working closely with First Nations and with the Ministry of Transport to get a rock quarry permit so that we could provide riprap for infrastructure rebuilding. We will now go into process our application, which we've already submitted for a gravel pit, and that will bring in both revenues and it'll help with the rebuilding of infrastructure. We are in the middle of completing a ZTEM survey right now, which is it's a survey over our entire property, and that after we complete that survey, we will then look at targets for drilling exploration targets.
Great chatting with the President and CEO of Nicola Mining, based here in BC, Merritt area. It's Peter Espig. He's the CEO, President of the company. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Another Small Cap Power discussion. For more information on us, check out smallcappower.com. Of course, look at our previous episodes on YouTube, and also with Nicola, it's nicolamining.com. Thank you once again for watching, and thanks to the Fairmont Pacific Rim Hotel here in Vancouver. Part of our coverage includes the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference. Thanks again for watching. I'm Jim Gordon. See you next time.